How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
My fellow Americans, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number, 877-973-7425. We're going to treat this as an open line Friday because tomorrow is the Good Friday show, and it's a little bit unique, and so we typically don't take calls from callers on that show. So 877-973-7425. As always, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you'll be able to get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast. We are going to make sure the Good Friday show gets put on the podcast. And I need you all, every one of you, to do me a favor, and that is to go to YouTube, to E.W. Erickson, at youtube.com/E.W. Erickson, and subscribe to YouTube. You need to help me out there. If you text Eric to 33777, you can get the link there to go. Now, I want to begin with a split screen. You know what a split screen is in television? You see two things happening at once. And there is going to be a very interesting split screen in the city of New York today. It will become one of the defining moments of campaign 2024. Joseph Robinette Biden, President of the United States, will be in Manhattan for a fundraiser. It'll be at Rockefeller Center. It will be with Bill Clinton. It will be with Barack Obama. It is expected to raise $25 million to fund Joe Biden's presidential campaign for 2024. All the good liberals in America are going to show up for Joe Biden's fundraiser this afternoon in New York City, in Manhattan. While Joe Biden is fundraising in Manhattan, tying up traffic in Midtown, Donald John Trump, former president of the United States, will be tying up traffic on Long Island. Joe Biden is going to a fundraiser. Donald Trump is going to a funeral. It's the funeral for Jonathan Diller. Jonathan Diller was 31 years old. He was a police officer, murdered in New York. The family invited Donald Trump. It's a visitation, not a funeral. The family invited Donald Trump. The local police invited Donald Trump. They want to highlight what's happening to police officers in New York. And it is a real big contrast between Joe Biden and the libs fundraising in Manhattan and Donald Trump being invited by police officers and a family to come to a visitation of a dead 31-year-old police officer who leaves behind a wife and one-year-old child who was murdered while on duty, the first New York City police officer murdered in the line of duty in 2 years. And you know what the most galling part of this is? The man who shot and killed Jonathan Diller had 21 prior arrests, not charges, arrests. He had been arrested for first-degree robbery, arrested for illegal gun possession, arrested for selling drugs to undercover police officers, 2 felony assaults, possession of a controlled substance, paroled in 2021. Diller was wearing a protective vest. The man in the car shot him. It went underneath the vest into his torso. He died. So the guy who shot him the repeat felon, 34-year-old Guy Rivera, who is in stable but critical condition at a hospital after Dillard's partner shot Rivera in the head. Rivera was in a passenger seat. They were parked at a bus stop. They were illegally parked and appeared suspicious. Dillard ordered Guy Rivera to get out of the police car. Rivera refused to step out of the car, pulled a gun, and shot and killed Dillard. And you know, the family of the murderer, alleged, the family of the murderer says, well, he had been arrested so many times, he was scared of police officers. Oh, poor baby. He had been in jail repeatedly, 21 prior arrests. How was he still on the street? But you know, this is the thing in New York City. There is an increased number of criminal activities in New York. And you know, New York is bragging about the reduction in crime. Do you know why crime is falling in New York? Yes, it's true. Some areas of crime actually are reducing. But do you know the number one reason crime is going down in New York City is people are no longer reporting it because they know nothing will happen. Even the police acknowledge that people aren't reporting, particularly misdemeanor crimes, because no one's going to do anything about it. It's an incredible juxtaposition of what's going on. Listen to this report on the news in New York.
What else can you do?
You can do this, Bill. Look, this was $3.47 at Home Depot. It is a no trespassing sign. You could put this up in your front door, on your property line, somewhere where you can see it from the street. But this is the catch. Take a time-stamped picture of the sign. Most iPhones do this automatically because what you want to prove to police is that the sign was up before the squatters moved in. You know what I mean? So you have to show that time and date stamp. That's also why video security is so important. You can show they broke in, entered illegally, and then you have helped take away their squatter rights.
Squatter rights. Why the hell do we have squatter rights at all in this country? Literally, the eyewitness news, ABC7 in New York is telling people, put up a no trespassing sign and document that you had it up when the house was empty. So when the squatters come, you can say there's a no trespassing sign. You should not have to have a no trespassing sign on your property. People should know not to come there. And the fact that New York News is telling you, you got to do this, otherwise you might generate squatter rights, is part of the problem in this country. Joe Biden is going to be with a bunch of liberals in New York City, glad-handing, yucking it up. Donald Trump is going to be at a dead man's visitation, and that dead man is a police officer that a bad guy shot and killed, and that bad guy should have been in prison, but he wasn't because of the progressive policies that Joe Biden perpetuates. It's not just that. This happened in Dothan, Alabama.
This morning, an illegal immigrant man is behind bars accused of raping a mentally incapacitated teen. Enterprise police arrested Pablo Mendoza after getting word of a crime happening last month. Sheriff Scott Byrd confirmed to WDHN that Mendoza is in the United States illegally. Authorities say that Mendoza had sex with the teen, and the teen could not consent due to her being, quote, physically helpless or mentally incapacitated. Mendoza is charged with the rape in the first degree and is currently being held in the Coffee County Jail without bond.
What about Laken Riley? Murdered in Athens, Georgia. Again, Donald Trump met her family. Joe Biden can't even say her name right. What a juxtaposition between the two. What a juxtaposition between the two. This is why Donald Trump continues leading in polls nationwide, by the way, particularly in swing states. This is the sort of stuff why. He's going to meet the families of fallen police officers. Joe Biden's going to hang out with the people who want to defund the police and give Joe Biden money to prop up those policies. Donald Trump is willing to visit with Laken Riley's family. Joe Biden is willing to apologize for calling her murderer an illegal alien instead of undocumented. These things matter. These things are telling. have a growing number of illegal aliens in this country who are murdering Americans, who are raping Americans, who are stealing, who are causing crimes, who are bringing non-American gang violence into the United States and growing non-American gang crime syndicates in this country. And the president says, well, he's helpless to do anything. He can't do anything. It really is a striking juxtaposition. So all the Democrats have right now is abortion. You know, outside of Huntsville, Alabama, Madison, Alabama, there's a state house race there for the state legislature, not Congress, state house. A Democrat who got blown up last time won this time, and all she did was campaign on IVF and abortion. IVF and abortion. Of course, the media's like, oh my gosh, the GOP, they're going to get wiped out because of abortion and IVF. That's what we're going to play. It's going to go overtime. The Democrats and the media, all we're going to hear from them, particularly from NBC News, is abortion, 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 abortion. They're not going to talk about the squatters in America. They're not going to talk about the crime in America. What the Republicans need to do is they need to talk about the crime. They need to talk about the illegal immigrants. They need to do what Donald Trump is doing, and the visuals override the talking points. Going to visit the family of a murdered police officer matters greatly. It overcomes the narrative as the Democrats try to tell you the biggest thing in America is whether or not you can kill your kid. Meanwhile, illegal aliens are killing your kids, and the Democrats do not care about it. Joe Biden is more concerned with apologizing for saying illegal instead of undocumented. He got Laken Riley's name wrong in the State of the Union and couldn't even apologize for mispronouncing her name. It's a massive issue. It is a disconnect with reality for the Democrats right now. It's a major disconnect with reality for the Democrats right now. Down in Florida, Ron DeSantis has passed legislation through the legislature. He's signing it into law, getting rid of so-called squatters' rights. You know, by the way, DeSantis won the big Disney case yesterday. Remember how everyone told you that he wasn't going to win, that it was ridiculous, what a waste of his time. Disney caved. There's been a settlement. DeSantis got everything he wanted out of it. Guy keeps putting points on the board. The squatters issue, it's come up here where I am in Georgia and around the country. Had an illegal alien last week on TikTok advising illegal aliens how to take over people's homes and declare themselves squatters and have rights in progressive enclaves in this country. They can get away with it. They can't get away with it in conservative areas of the country. And a backlash is coming. The Democrats are so focused on abortion. It's all they have is scaring women and some men into voting for Joe Biden over abortion rights in this country. And the GOP honestly does need to figure out a message, but what they need to do is speak more loudly on these issues. Jonathan Diller is dead because a man who was arrested 21 times got a revolving door from prison instead of being locked up for the rest of his life behind bars. Laken Riley is dead because of an illegal alien coming into this country under the Biden administration, constantly being let out of jail by progressives, was able to murder her. This guy in Alabama, Pablo Mendoza, able to rape an incapacitated girl. There's been a murder in Alabama as well. There's been a murder in Tennessee. There's been a murder in Texas, all illegal aliens. And the best the Democrats can do is, well, actually, the legal people are more prone to murder. Well, let's worry about the legal ones. We shouldn't have to worry about the illegal ones. Crime matters. And in New York today, the American public is going to be treated to one heck of a split screen. The former president of the United States spending compassionate time with the widow and one-year-old child of a murdered police officer, while Joe Biden hangs out with progressives who like to defund the police and raises money from them in Manhattan. These optics matter. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you want to be on the program? A buddy of mine reminded me of this, and I'm glad I get an opportunity to mention this because I was in Washington, the beginning of this month, the very first week of this month, I was up there with my son. And we were touring. It was a class trip. We went to Ford's Theater. And after we went to Ford's Theater, we went across the street to the house in which Abe Lincoln died. And the bed and the room and everything, they're preserved in there to be able to see where Lincoln died, surrounded by members of his cabinet, a tiny room. And then next door is a big gift shop. It is a touristy shop filled with little tchotchkes and stuff. And what was so notable to every single person is there was very, very little about Joe Biden in the shop. And to the extent there was about Joe Biden, any paraphernalia in the shop, it kind of was mocking Joe Biden, his mind and things like that. There wasn't any real, one shirt I could find, and a keychain with Biden-Harris's logo on it. That was it. But there was a ton about Donald Trump. So I walked down the street. There was another shop down the street. And I thought, well, maybe these people just hate Joe Biden. So at the corner, there was another shop. Same thing. A lot of pro-Trump stuff, a lot of anti-Trump stuff. Very little Biden stuff at all. And to the extent it was there, it was mocking Biden. And I thought it was very interesting. The tourists who come to D.C. clearly have more of an interest in Trump than Biden, way more pro than anti-Trump stuff in the stores, but a lot of both, very little of Biden. Anecdote is not evidence. Here's one more anecdote for you. In February 2021, Politico announced Alex Thompson, its national political reporter who has since joined Axios, had signed a contract with Simon & Schuster to pen a comprehensive book on Biden's presidency. Well, Simon & Schuster is announcing today it has withdrawn the contract with Alex Thompson because of a, quote, soft market for books about President Joe Biden. There is not a lot of interest out there in Joe Biden, for or against him for that matter. The tourist stores don't have pro or anti-Biden tchotchkes, and even the book publishers are canceling deals about Biden because people just don't care about him. Kind of a telling thing. I want you all to care about Stamps.com because I want you to save some money, and you can save money by going to Stamps.com, clicking the microphone, and putting in Eric, E-R-I-C-K. You can start shipping and saving with Stamps.com for your home or your office. If you ship a lot of stuff, you can get up to 89% off post office and UPS rates with Stamps.com. Not only that, you don't have to go stand in line. You don't have to go to the shipping store. You can have them come pick up the packages from you. And if you go to Stamps.com, click the mic and put in Eric, they'll send you a free digital scale, some free postage, and you don't have a contract to sign. You don't have a long-term commitment to sign. You can cancel at any time. So if you're not shipping as much later, well, you can cancel and then pick it back up, come back to them, and reopen your account. You can buy shipping supplies from them as well. You can get boxes, you can get bubble wrap, you can get postage, whatever you need. Stamps.com makes it really, really easy. You can find the cheapest and the fastest options. All you need is your mobile device, a printer. You can get your computer out, get on the web. They make it really easy. Stamps.com, click the microphone, put in Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Sign up today, get that free digital scale, start shipping and saving today with Stamps.com. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. We're opening up the phone lines a little more today before I step out next week for spring break with the family. We'll be a little more loose with the phone calls. I want to jump into a subject. I'm kind of proud of myself for this one because I was talking about this story well before it made the mainstream press, and suddenly it is a big issue. And I will tell you, full disclosure, I've told the Trump team they should make this a massive issue. It is a perfect issue to connect into the hearts of suburbia. It is the FAFSA issue. The Wall Street Journal has a story, finally. The disastrous rollout of this year's federal financial aid application hit a new snag Friday, with the education department saying that roughly 200,000 of the 1.5 million plus applications processed and shared with schools and states so far will need to be recalculated. The education department, which administers the free application for federal student aid, said it had miscalculated the financial need for students who reported their own financial assets in the application. The department mistakenly omitted data on student investment and cash savings and sent reports that could have led schools and scholarship programs to offer more aid than students might actually qualify for. The latest hiccup could further delay and uncertainty to and add uncertainty to an admissions season that's already shaping up to be the most chaotic in recent memory. Now that's Wall Street Journal. My buddy Dan McLaughlin, who is also, like us, going through the situation with one of his kids going to college, also ran into this. If, like me, you have a college-bound high school senior in your family, you've likely been on the receiving end of yet another colossal screw-up by our federal government, the overhaul of FAFSA. Each year, students, or more commonly their parents, need to fill out the FAFSA with information about their income, assets, and expenses in order to qualify for federal student aid. Many colleges require the form before awarding other forms of need-based aid, and some require it to be filed even by people without need before they qualify for scholarships. There's a more detailed and onerous form, the CSS, operated by the College Board and required by some schools. Filling these out is like doing your taxes, only more so. Typically, the forms are available in October, and schools may set deadlines in the fall so they can deliver financial aid. Not this year. The FAFSA wasn't even fully available until January 8th, after the Department of Education briefly flicked on the lights on the form December 30th, just so it could claim that it launched in 2023. I was on 2 college visits over the weekend. One school said it was just starting to receive the first batch of forms for its accepted students. The other had decided in the fall it was going to be a disaster and pushed its date for students to commit to the school back from May 1st to June 1st. For schools with rolling deadlines, that means students who are ready to commit now will have a leg up on those whose decisions hinge on available aid. It also means that undecided students may end up wasting time visiting campuses they would otherwise have crossed off their lists by now. On Monday, Gavin Newsom in California signed an emergency law extending by a month the deadline for California students to apply for scholarships. The state already pushed back its commitment date to May 15th. Now, here's a quote from Ted Mitchell, American College of Education. He was on the PBS NewsHour, said this: "It's a rolling catastrophe. As we've heard, it's rolling over students who are waiting to hear about their aid so that they can make the right decision for them and their families. It's unprecedented. The delay has been a long time coming, 3-4 months now. We have 175 institutions that have moved their deadline either to the middle of May or June. They're giant institutions, about 5 million students represented in the University of California, the California State University system, the State University of New York system, the University of North Carolina system. It's been completely botched." This is from Catherine Knott and Liam Knox at Inside Higher Ed. The legislation passed by Congress during the Trump administration reduced the number of questions on the form from 100 to fewer than 40 and changed the underlying formula to determine student aid eligibility. The new law expanded Pell Grant eligibility. President Biden's Department of Education would have had until October 2022 to get it all done. By the time Miguel Cardona, the Secretary of Education, was confirmed, it was already clear the department officials would need more time. They were granted an extra year, and they still screwed it up. This is actually where the partisanship on the issue comes in. It's a bureaucratic bipartisan snafu. President Trump and Congress got the law passed, but it was not implemented until President Biden came into office, and the bureaucrats at the Department of Education under Joe Biden botched it up. Now, wait, there's more, and this is the real problem here. Y'all pay attention to this. This is from The Hill, and again, all this stuff finally coming out. I've been telling you this for weeks now that there was a problem, and suddenly this week there's a wave of news stories about it. That's how bad it is. So this is from The Hill. Normally, 17.5 million students fill out FAFSA every year. In fact, statistically, based on the number of kids graduating from high schools in this country this year, and the ones who are headed into their senior year who begin this process early, there should be about 17 million American students filling out FAFSA this year. Can you guess how many there are? Normally it's 17 to 17.5 million. 5.8 million. That's really bad because it means that a lot of kids have probably given up trying to get into the system. The National College Attainment Network keeps a tracker for FAFSA applications for high school seniors, not including those who are reapplying. As of March 1st, they found only 1.2 million high school students have even submitted applications. That's a 34% decrease from the last cycle based on their data. The debacle started with the Department of Education was not able to get the revised forms completed by October. The department put out the applications on the last day of December, fulfilling at the last minute the deadline Congress gave it. The previous application was much longer, more complicated, and lawmakers wanted to simplify the process. The new forms have fewer questions and allow the Department of Education to pull tax records from the IRS so families don't have to search for the information. But then the website started crashing. And then there were difficulties in processing the data that were generated on the website. Y'all, this is a rolling disaster for American higher education, brought to you by the bureaucrats at the Department of Education. Kids are not going to be able to get into colleges. Some kids who could get into college aren't going to be able to. Some kids are going to get priority because they don't need as much. I'll tell you, real world example in my household. My daughter, as a matter of fact, she sent me this text message a short time ago. 9:57 a.m. This is to confirm we have received your FAFSA results in their totality from the Department of Education. She got a notice last week that it had been received, but then they couldn't process it because of the way it was sent by the Department of Education. But it was resent this morning, and apparently they got it and can use it. Again, it was sent, but the Department of Education screwed up. They screwed up how you fill it out. They screwed up sending it. They screwed up processing it. They screwed up the calculations. They screwed up sending the information to colleges. They've screwed up literally every single step along the way. And now the latest screw up. They have screwed up the calculations for families with kids in college, meaning that the way the law is supposed to work, you are considered less wealthy if you are supporting multiple kids in college. But they've screwed up the calculation on that now, and they're not counting your additional kids in college on the form, even though the law says they're supposed to. That's the latest revelation this morning on just how screwed up the FAFSA process is. Everything is messed up. But there's a side angle here that a lot of people don't realize, and it was when I was explaining to a friend of mine this morning on the phone. Every college and university in the United States has to be accredited. They're a very famous accrediting agency. SAC's one of the famous big ones. You have to have accreditation. Colleges recognize each other if they're accredited. It prevents the fly-by-night colleges. It prevents your kids from being scammed. And it recognizes that these colleges and universities have some level of rigor in that for compliance levels. Well, without FAFSA, let me back up. So the accrediting agencies used to look at a college's endowment to see if the college was financially stable. So if you had a deficit, you didn't have enough kids coming for the year, you were running a deficit, as long as you had an endowment big enough to cover the cost, you were considered financially stable. The accrediting agencies across the country have changed their view on this, and now you've got to at least break even financially based on your revenue. They don't take endowments into account anymore. Some of these colleges and universities are going through the accrediting process right now, and they have no idea whether they're going to be able to break even or not, because their kids that are coming don't know if they're getting financial aid, so they don't know if they can afford to come. So the colleges don't know how many beds they're going to have to fill, or are they going to be short of space, or are they going to have to close down a dorm to save money? Are they going to have to lay teachers off because they don't need enough teachers on campus? What are they going to do to make ends meet? These are very small colleges. Y'all, there are some colleges in this country that have 500 to 1,000 kids. Now, you can say that's ridiculous, except you know and I know there are some kids who aren't going to perform well with 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 kids on campus. They want a college degree. but they need a small environment. It's good for them. It's good for them mentally. It's good for them socially. It's good for them based on their background. It's good for them based on the education they're going to get. And some of those colleges are about to be devastated because of FAFSA. You're going to have a collapse in higher education. You can say this is good, except here's the problem. The schools that are most likely to be hurt by this are conservative Christian colleges. Those small Christian schools around the country are the ones who are probably going to be wiped out by this. This, of course, is going to immediately expend the conspiratorial thinking of maybe this is by design, maybe they're doing this. But this gets to Robert Heinlein's rule of never attribute to maliciousness what you can attribute to incompetence. It's a massive incompetence thing. And I got to tell you again, I am patting myself on the back a little bit in that I've been talking about this for over a month. Going back to January when this issue first arose, I mentioned it then. And finally now, The Hill is reporting it, National Review is reporting it, The Wall Street Journal is reporting it. It is a major, major screw-up. It could wipe out some colleges and universities. It could deprive some kids of access to college. It could deprive some kids of scholarships. It can really screw up the calculations for who can be qualified. And every time the Department of Education attempts to fix it, they screw it up yet again. And according to the Wall Street Journal today, the latest screw-up is they have completely miscalculated student scholarship and grant criteria because they forgot to include if students have outside income that would deduct the amount of grants that they are qualified for. What an absolute screw-up. Now, speaking of colleges, one where you don't have to fill out FAFSA is Hillsdale College because they don't take any federal aid. It allows them complete control over their agenda. It allows them complete control over their curriculum. It allows them complete control over their student fundraising. Every student at Hillsdale can get a job. They help you pay for it. It's an amazing institution. They want to give you a taste of it. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com today, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com, you can sign up, take a free online class with Hillsdale College. The one you're going to get right now, Victor Davis Hanson, it is his course on citizenship. Its relevance, its decline, how to revitalize it, why it's important, where the idea of citizenship comes from. You can take this at your own pace. You can share it with your friends and family. You get educated about such a core concept in American constitutional governance. Citizenship itself, taught by the award-winning, acclaimed historian Victor Davis Hanson. And then you get your foot in and you get a little more of a relationship with Hillsdale College. You're going to find out why it's an institution, one, you should support, but two, how much you can learn from them at no cost to you. ericforhillsdale.com. ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. It's a fantastic institution, a monastery for the conservative mind, preserving the ideals of American founding principles. Hillsdale College really is one of the best, and you can experience it for yourself. ericforhillsdale.com. This hour of the program is brought to you by my friends at First Liberty Building and Loan. Now, the Frost family has been helping businesses grow their businesses since the 90s. You tired of dealing with lenders where every time you go in, there's somebody new there? Well, you don't have to worry about that with First Liberty. They help businesses. If you need $250,000 or more to grow your business, you see opportunities where banks just don't get it, reach out to them, firstlibertyga.com. Anywhere in the nation your business is located, they can help you, firstlibertyga.com. I need to comment on Joe Lieberman. Joe Lieberman was the first Jew in the United States to be nominated to be vice president of a major political party. I actually have friends Jewish friends who this was a defining moment in their life. It is not something I suspect that you relate to, that it was that monumental of a deal, but for my Jewish friends, it was a massive, massive deal that Joe Lieberman would be nominated. And then, of course, that was the Al Gore race against George Bush, where George Bush won. Note that the New York Times is in election denial mode today, claiming Bush won because of the Supreme Court, not because he actually won the Electoral College, which is notable, very notable, that they're going down that road. Nonetheless, Lieberman was a tremendous supporter of Israel, and he was a real American patriot. You don't need any buts to qualify your disagreements with Joe Lieberman or whatnot, because Joe Lieberman made it a habit of working across the aisle to try to find bipartisan things he could do. He was a liberal, Everybody knew he was liberal, but he loved his country and wanted to work. He was tremendous. Remember, so Bush and Cheney win. Highly contentious race. And Lieberman, more so than Al Gore, reaches across the aisle and is willing to work with them, particularly after 9/11. Lieberman makes a point of doing everything he can to support the Bush administration where he can in the war effort. And it was a very striking note on diplomacy and statesmanship by a man who could have been very bitter had he wanted to be and chose not to. They don't make them like that very much anymore. A real statesman, a very nice guy. And it's notable that the Democrats chased him out of the party for not being progressive enough. Don't forget that Joe Lieberman was chased out of the Democratic Party for not being progressive enough. You cannot forget that. And the Democrats kind of dancing around that issue today, that the progressives in the Democratic Party worked very hard to chase Joe Lieberman, who had been their vice presidential nominee, to run him out of the Democratic Party. And in fact, in so doing after that, he lost to Ned Lamont. He became an independent. And he wound up winning Connecticut for Lieberman. He trounced them all, went back into the election, and won. Lieberman got overwhelmingly reelected after being an independent. And then you know what? In 2004, Lieberman actually went to 2008, Lieberman went and had John McCain's back at the Republican convention. Democrats, do not forget, Democrats chased him out of the Democratic Party, the Jewish man, because he wasn't progressive enough. That should have been a big red flag for where the Democratic Party would head. When we come back, we gotta move on to other things. COVID attacks. The COVID attacks are about to come from the Biden administration to attack Donald Trump. The writing is on the wall. The data is there. I've got it to tell you what they're going to do. We'll take your phone calls as well. 877-973-7425. It's Eric Erickson, Nationwide.